All right, let's do another tier video. Today we will rank the compatibility of Pisces. Shout out to Jekyll6257. I know that you will appreciate me doing Pisces. I know that you would have waited very patiently if I had done Pisces last, but I'm not going to do that to you. But anyway, so yeah, I think this will be interesting. I haven't, honestly, at least recently, I don't think I've thought much about the compatibility of Pisces, so we're going to kind of explore this together. I'm having a great day today. I hope you are, whoever you are that's watching this. Okay, and before I get started here, I did want to mention if you are willing or able to make a donation, or if you felt compelled to get a reading, definitely do that. You can always email me at manic.mercurian@gmail.com, or you can go to my website at www.manic.mercurian.net. All of that information is in the description. Anyway, okay, so Pisces and Aquarius. So this is, kind of a weird one. I've been calling this aspect an inconjunction recently, which is not correct. An inconjunction is technically another word for a quincunx. So this is actually a semi-sextile. So half of a sextile is a semi-sextile. This is a 30-degree aspect, semi-sextile, which means that Pisces and Aquarius are side-by-side signs. So they do come at a similar time of year. Aquarius is the middle of winter in the northern hemisphere. Pisces is the last part of winter, which kind of, prepares us for spring. And at some latitudes, it already looks like spring in Pisces season. So they do come from the same kind of, environment. Both Aquarius and Pisces are the last two signs. So they have to do with themes which are the most kind of abstract and ethereal and complex and big picture, long term, big ideas. Like both Aquarius and Pisces are philosophical, for example. They are dramatically different, though. Their personalities are different. And that's what we find with basically any signs that are side by side. I think the most similar side by side signs would be probably Capricorn and Aquarius. But generally, most signs are very different when they're next to each other. So I've characterized the semi-sextile dynamic as being, it's like sibling energy. These signs will get along great for a little bit, and then they will hate each other and they'll bicker and fight, and then they'll get along great again. It's kind of unpredictable like that, so it does depend on other placements. But generally, when you have signs that are side by side, they are so dramatically different from each other that it's going to be very difficult. If these two people or whatever placements are in these signs, if these people that we're talking, or whoever we're talking about, if they are very open to someone that's much different than they are, then of course this could work. This could work with the right amount of mutual understanding, compromise, etc. But it's going to take all of that for this to work. The main challenge I see with Aquarius and Pisces is that Aquarius is one of the least emotional signs. They're not really comfortable with emotions. They feel very deeply, don't get me wrong. Aquarius is a very passionate sign, but they can be a little bit awkward with the delivery of feelings, and they're not. I mean, Aquarius can be cuddly, but I think it's one of the least cuddly signs. It's really weird that Valentine's Day is in Aquarius season because it's not a super romantic sign. Aquarius can be very cold, dry. It is what it is. They're realists. They can be even a little bit on the cynical side. Pisces is the opposite. They're so warm, sentimental. They're very emotional. Pisces is typically going to want a lovey-dovey, kind of sappy, cuddly, touchy-feely relationship. And again, it couldn't be more different from Aquarius, which is, you're basically combining one of the coldest signs with one of the warmest signs. So I think Aquarius could be uncomfortable with how emotional Pisces is, and Pisces could be uncomfortable with how apparently unemotional Aquarius is, or how, kind of awkward with emotions Aquarius is. So, yeah, I think I would rank this as one of the worst combinations for Pisces. Now, don't get me wrong; it could always work. Like I said, it could work with compromise, mutual understanding. It also depends on your Venus, Mars, and descendant. I will make a point to say that in every single compatibility video because it's that big of a deal. You can't just compare sun signs and say, "Oh, we have compatible sun signs. We need to be in a romantic relationship." It really depends on your Mars, but especially Venus and the descendant. We are attracted to whatever signs those are in. But yeah, Pisces and Aquarius, I will say there is one more commonality. Both Aquarius and Pisces kind of root for the underdog, and both can be very humanitarian. Both can be kind of caretakers. They want to help the world, help other people. But again, the way that they go about that is very different, though. Aquarius wants to help people, but from behind the scenes, from a kind of maybe technological modality, or from like an invention, or writing something, or working with words or technology or something like that, or science. They want to help people, but in a detached way. Pisces wants to help people directly, like face to face. So even that commonality is different. I think this is one of those dynamics, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about this. I think this is one of those dynamics where if they work together, they could be an excellent team because of their differences. As long as they can bridge those differences and communicate with one another, I think they could use, each other's strengths in a really powerful way as some kind of partnership. But generally, romantically, I think that would be very difficult for Pisces and Aquarius. Even as friends, I think it would generally be difficult. Next is Pisces and Aries. So with Pisces and Aries, these signs are also side by side. So we're dealing with the same aspect, a semi-sextile. So again, you've got that sibling energy. They'll get along sometimes. They'll hate each other other times. It's very up and down because of their dramatic differences. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, and Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So even though they are side by side, you could also view it as, they're on completely other sides of the zodiac, because they're clustered right around that spring equinox, which is so powerful. It's such a huge point of renewal. So, Pisces and Aries are very dramatically different, even though they are so close to each other. I will say, though, that unlike with Aquarius was such a detached kind of intellectual energy, very different from Pisces. Pisces and Aries are both very passionate. They're both very spirited. They both know how they feel, although I guess Pisces can sometimes be a little bit complicated with their, feelings and thoughts. Aries is a little bit more straightforward, but at least both are passionate, so they'll feel each other's energy. I think this could be a very sexual, very passionate dynamic because of that, because both of these signs are so in touch with their feelings. The other thing, we could look at the rulerships. I won't necessarily do that with every combination, but Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, Aries is ruled by Mars. So combining them, both can be very like expansive energies, I guess you could say. So I guess that could be interesting. Even though Mars is a malefic, I do think Aries is it's a very optimistic sign, and Pisces is optimistic as well. So you do have those commonalities, but there are huge differences here as well. I think one of the main challenges is that Aries is probably the most offensive sign, and Pisces is one of the most sensitive signs and sentimental. So Aries is going to burn Pisces up. That could be in a sexual way, like that. There's going to be edginess there. There's going to be tension. So yeah, that could make for a really passionate dynamic. But I think that passion would be difficult to maintain. It's going to be a roller coaster because both of these signs are very emotional, I think. The other thing, too, is that like not everyone always understands that Aries can come across they are very intense, but they don't necessarily always mean it. Like they can be very intense one minute and then they're like over it the next minute. But Pisces may not always understand that. Like Pisces may be deeply offended, or not just offended, but Pisces may find it as a turnoff how dramatic Aries is. Does that make sense? Like I think Pisces wants some more secure, like I said, more cuddly, like let's just have soft, warm vibes and let's just chill. Like Pisces is like hippie energy, in my opinion. So you're combining that with Aries, which is warrior energy. They really kind of don't match. So like I said, I could see this being very passionate, but I don't see it lasting unless there are other things going on. It's more, any situation is going to be more complicated than just comparing two signs next to each other. So again, that's where you have to do your homework, look at other placements and things like that. But generally, Pisces and Aries, it'd either be awkward or worst. I do think it would work better than Aquarius because at least both are very like emotional signs. I know Aries can be logical as well, but I'd say both are more feeler signs. They're both symbolized by animals. So I'm gonna say worst, just because I just think they could really rub each other the wrong way. I think Aries may be frustrated by how kind of wishy-washy and like Aries has so much direction. They're so straightforward. Pisces has no direction. They're kind of all over the place. They're meandering. They're adventuring. They're getting sidetracked. So I think that huge difference could be frustrating for both of them. Aries is going to say, hey, Pisces, like, what's your plan? Where are you at? What are you doing? And Pisces will be like, well, I don't really know. I'm going with the flow. Like, Aries isn't going to understand that. And vice versa. Pisces may just be overwhelmed by Aries, like, energy and, like, need to be constantly doing something. Pisces is going to say, like, just relax, like, tone it down. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's a huge difference there. Okay, finally, Cancer. This is refreshing. Because this could not be a more dramatically different energy than what we talked about with Aquarius and Aries. Cancer forms a trine to Pisces. They are 120 degrees apart, and trines are Jupiter energy, so it's expansive energy. It's easy, it's pleasant. The reason why is because both Pisces and Cancer are water signs, so they're going to have a lot in common. Cancer may have more in common with Pisces than any other sign. It's going to be either Cancer or Scorpio. I'm not really sure which one. I mean, Cancer and Scorpio have different things in common with Pisces, but that's beside the point. Both Pisces and Cancer they're going to have all those kind of water sign elemental keywords. So both are very emotional, very sensitive. I think Pisces and Cancer are distinct. You know, Scorpio is obviously the other water sign, but Scorpio is a little bit, they have more of that hard shell. Cancer can have a hard shell too, but I think Cancer and Pisces are unique in the zodiac for being like wearing their heart on their sleeves more than any other sign. Again, Cancer can sometimes have a bit of a shell, being the crab and all that, but Cancer, I think, can be very, they can wear their heart on their sleeves. They're not afraid to be sensitive, many of them, especially female Cancers. Male Cancers, I think, have a little bit more of a shell because it's harder to be such an emotional guy. It's not always, like, approved of, I guess. But women Cancers in particular, of course, that's a generalization. But women Cancers and then Pisces in general, they generally aren't afraid to be emotional and to let that emotion shine through. And so I think that huge commonality is going to be, it's just going to make for an easy dynamic. Both Pisces and Cancer will be warm with one another. They'll both be, sensitive to each other's emotions. What else? Both are going to want a kind of cuddly, touchy-feely relationship. The only challenge I could see is that Cancer generally wants stability, and Pisces is one of the least stable signs, I would say. Pisces is more adaptable, go with the flow, etc. So I guess, I don't want to say Cancer would feel out of control, though, because I think just having so much in common will help Cancer and Pisces to feel safe. It's like, Pisces isn't always the most, consistent sign, but at least, Cancer is going to feel them. They're going to know, they're going to be able to like sense each other emotionally and have that deep connection, if that makes sense. So I think that's where the security will lie with this combination. There's really not much else to say. I think this sign, the energy to me would be a friendship energy, but that could definitely be part of something more. It could be romantic as well, especially because, these are probably the two most emotional signs. Romantic relationships tend to be a little bit emotional. So having two people that are very emotional in a romantic relationship, I think that could generally work very well. I guess there could be too much emotion, but generally this is going to be a great friendship. There's going to be easy communication. There's not going to need to be much compromise because these energies are just very similar to each other. And the last thing I'll say about this is that especially if one or both of these people are in a period of self-discovery or maybe a difficult time, that's where a relationship with, between Cancer and Pisces is going to be, it's just going to be easy. You can just come to that person and just kind of, be yourself, not have to really try. They're just going to understand you. So that could be especially beneficial in hard times in life and periods of self-discovery. Next is Capricorn. So this is a little bit, honestly, this is the most interesting dynamic in my opinion so far as an astrologer sitting here analyzing it, because Capricorn has some things in common. I think they have more differences than similarities with Pisces, but this is a sextile. It's a 60-degree aspect, and so they're two signs apart. It's a very harmonious dynamic. Venus rules that sextile aspect. Sextiles are sexy. It's that straightforward. But this is kind of an interesting, it can be a bit of a weird match because of their differences. So, and the differences are key here. I think these signs may be attracted to each other because of their differences, but I think their differences could also drive one another crazy. Capricorn is earth, Pisces is water. That tends to work very well because the water signs, Pisces being so emotional, they really enjoy an earth sign to feel grounded with, right? And Capricorn is very grounded, very disciplined, very structured. So I think Pisces, being so unstructured, they may really enjoy Capricorn's structure. And Capricorn, or at least certain Capricorn people, may enjoy the opposite of Pisces. They'll enjoy how kind of like Pisces emotionality may be refreshing for Capricorn. Water can definitely nurture the earth, if that makes sense. Like earth signs can come across a little bit more dry, but they love that water energy. They love that emotion. I think earth signs are very emotional. They're just kind of afraid to be emotional, so they kind of soak it up when other people are more emotionally vulnerable, I guess you could say. The differences though, so Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, and these energies could not be more different. Pisces is so optimistic. Capricorn is one of the most cynical, I guess you could say, negative signs. Capricorn is very productive, very ambitious, very goal oriented. Pisces is more about, let's just go with the flow, let's just have a good time. Why are you worrying about everything? Let's just chill out. Again, it's like hippie energy. Capricorn would be like yuppie energy, and Pisces would be hippie energy. I'm kind of just making this up as I go. I don't know if you can tell. But anyway, so that, again, that huge difference could either be very attractive or very unattractive, depending on if these people are open to someone who is so dramatically different than they are. What else can I say about this? There are some kind of subtle similarities. I think when you first look at these signs, they look like they have nothing in common. Like, Capricorn is one of the most ambitious, hardworking signs, and Pisces is one of the more, it's hippie energy. It's more, I don't know, like laissez-faire, like let's just do whatever. What was I going to say? But there are some subtle similarities. So, both signs, these are the two last yin signs, or, they're two of the last signs. Capricorn is the beginning of winter in the northern hemisphere. Pisces is the end of winter. Both have like very worldly kind of wisdom about them, because both deal with themes like that are very abstract and far-reaching, but both are yin signs, so they process all of that internally. So I think because of that, both can be very wise. It does tend to be in different ways, though. Capricorn is more like practical. Pisces is more about like emotional wisdom or life wisdom, I guess you could say. Well, both can have that life wisdom, though, especially later in life. So that could be interesting. But all in all, I would say this would be an average combination romantically. I think it could be really beautiful or really awful. It kind of just depends on the other factors involved. Yeah, they do sextile, but Capricorn is just so dry and Saturnian and cold, and Pisces is so warm and, it's Jupiter, it's water. It's, they could be very complementary, very excellent team, but it may be difficult to communicate with each other and to work together and to understand each other. Next is Gemini. This is interesting. So Pisces and Gemini form a 90-degree square aspect. So I always say, honestly, if I have to think about it, I think square signs that square each other may be my favorite to kind of pair up compatibility wise, generally speaking. Some pairings are better than others, but the reason why is because there is tension there. They do form, that 90-degree aspect is a tense aspect. There is conflict there or change. But that's not all bad, though. That tension can be good. That could be, passion. That could be exciting. That could be even sexual. So I don't hate squares, and squares are such a major aspect. Whenever you have any kind of major aspect between two people, two placements, they may or may not get along, but they at least see each other. They have a strong connection. That aspect is a conversation, if that makes sense. So Pisces and Gemini, they get each other. Do they agree on everything? No. The major difference is that Pisces is one of the most emotional signs. Gemini is one of the least emotional signs. Pisces is water. Gemini is air. So that's a huge difference. But they have a ton in common as well. I would say that Pisces and Gemini are the most adaptable signs, the most go with the flow. These are both chameleons. They're both complex. So they'll be open to each other's complexity. They can understand each other very deeply on that level. I think Pisces may sometimes feel, how do I put this? Like, Pisces usually connects with people through emotion, I feel like, and Gemini being so relatively unemotional, I think Pisces may sometimes not always like understand Gemini or know how to read them, and vice versa. Gemini being so analytical, they may not always understand Pisces. So I could see a lot of understanding here, and I could sometimes maybe see like misunderstandings as well. But both being so adaptable, that is a key point. I think that could help or hurt this relationship. Like having that in common, yeah, that's great. I would like to see someone a little bit more grounded for Pisces, generally speaking, to be more complementary or more balancing. But Gemini and Pisces having that, mutability in common, I think that could make for a great friendship. Both may be very adventurous. They're both very open to new experiences. I could see these signs having a great time trying new things or like traveling together. I think that would be really fun for both of them. Or even learning new things, like learning new information could be fun, especially if it's like mystical or kind of complex information. I don't know. Things like that. What else? Gemini and Pisces. Both are kind of, well, I was going to say both are kind of hippie energy, Gemini, because, well, both are very youthful energies. Let's put it that way. Both Pisces and Gemini can come across younger than they actually are. I think it's because they're so open. They're so open and curious that it makes them come across kind of childlike. So, again, having that in common, I think would make it would lead them to potentially being great friends. So, I think that friendship could definitely be part of something more. One downside I could see romantically in particular is that both of these signs being so open-minded and outgoing, or not outgoing, but, they can be outgoing, but that's not the word I was looking for. Both of these signs being so open and go with the flow, I think that may actually make it difficult because who's going to initiate? Who, especially at the beginning of the relationship, where's the fire, or who's the leader? There's no clear leader here. One or both of them may or may not, like both are mutable signs, so both have a huge range. Both Pisces and Gemini can be very shy or very outgoing because yes, they are curious, but they're also sensitive. So they could be very interactive with their environment or very shut off and quiet and like afraid. So it kind of just depends, who's going to be in charge. That may kind of change depending on which way the wind is blowing. Do you know what I mean? So that, even that in itself, that's not necessarily a bad thing with compatibility, but it could be. It could make things awkward, I guess. So that's the only thing I could really kind of nitpick about this, but I think this would be a very interesting combination. I think they could learn from each other. They have enough differences to make this compelling and complementary, but they have enough in common to understand each other on some level. So I would say it's good. I think this would be easier than Capricorn, if I'm being honest, even though that's where it gets tricky though, because you would think a sextile aspect would be a much better compatibility than a square aspect, but it's not always necessarily that simple. So hopefully I'm not confusing you, but I do like to mention the aspects because it does give you such a great picture of like the dynamics going on, but at the same time, there is more to it than just that. Okay, astrology is complicated. Okay, next is Leo. So this is a great example because Leo is quincunx to Pisces. So generally, these two signs have as little in common as possible. Pisces is mutable water. They're the end of winter. Leo is fixed fire. They're the middle of summer. Like, you can't find two signs that are more different from one another. Excuse me. Leo, I feel like whenever I'm talking about compatibility with the signs, Leo tends to be very similar to Aries because they do have so much in common. So it is a little bit like that. Leo and Pisces are just going to have a lot of differences, as I mentioned. Pisces is very sensitive. Leo can be very generous, but they can also be sometimes a little bit self-centered and inconsiderate of the emotions of others. I myself am guilty of that with my Leo Venus, but anyway, so I could see Leo kind of not really meaning to, but they might step on the toes of Pisces, or maybe even be kind of offensive to Pisces at times. What else? Leo is very outgoing. They tend to be social butterflies. They want a lot of activity, a lot of engagement. Pisces can definitely be, a party animal. They can be very social, but I think Pisces also likes time to be alone and be more reclusive, or be with, maybe just one or two people they know very well. So there's that difference as well. They could be incompatible with their kind of lifestyles, like socially and things like that. What else? The one commonality, which may be difficult for me to explain, but Leo is ruled by the sun, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter was almost a dwarf star. Jupiter emits more heat than it takes in, so Jupiter has that warmth to it, almost reminiscent of the sun. Not quite on that level, obviously, but so anyway, what I'm saying is both Leo and Pisces are optimists. Both are very warm signs, so I think both may just enjoy that warmth from one another. I think both are very generous signs as well. Like I said, Leo can be very selfish, but they can also be very generous as well. So I definitely don't hate this combination. I'm not really sure exactly how I'm gonna rank it. Definitely not the worst. Would it be awkward? I think it could be awkward, but it could also be very beautiful. Fire and water can be very passionate, very steamy, right? Fire and water make steam, which could be exciting. That could be so passionate, maybe very sexual. But at the same time, the steam doesn't usually stick around very long unless it's like a fog. But even fog doesn't usually stick around long anywhere I've lived or heard about. So my point is, fire and water, yeah, that can be exciting, but the fire burns up the water, or in other words, the water may feel drained or evaporated, may feel offended by the fire, and the fire may feel put out by the water because Pisces is so sensitive. Leo wants a lot of room to breathe and be free and run around and maybe be, I don't know, raunchy or funny or whatever, and they may actually feel confined by Pisces, which I know sounds weird because Pisces usually knows no limits, but just being that water sign, it is a heavier energy than fire. So I would say it's an awkward connection. Definitely not the worst. That warmth and generosity is key here. They may really enjoy that with one another. But if there isn't something else going on, I think it may be very difficult to maintain this. Like it will be passionate. It may be fun, sexual, but can you maintain that dynamic though? I think that's where it will be difficult, and it will require mutual compromise and understanding. Like I always say, that's quickly becoming my slogan for these videos. Pisces and Libra, this is a very similar dynamic because Pisces and Libra are also quincunx. They're also 5 signs or 150 degrees apart. So again, you have a lot of differences. Pisces and Libra, again, the mode, the element, the season, the polarity, all of those things are going to be different with these two signs. So, and also, like I've said, Pisces being so emotional, I think that is a huge key factor with their compatibility with all the signs, really. Pisces is, I would say, generally maybe the second most emotional sign after Cancer. You could argue Scorpio is up there as well. And I would argue that Libra is the least emotional sign, which, again, you could argue maybe Aquarius is, but anyway, my point is Pisces is very emotional. Libra is not very emotional. I think at first glance, or when these signs are first meeting each other, they may think they have more in common than they actually do, because Libra comes across a little bit like a water sign at first, because they come across very warm, receptive. They come across more emotional than they actually are. And Pisces can be detached sometimes. So I think at first glance, they may feel like they have a lot in common. There's also a Venus connection here. Venus rules Libra and is exalted in Pisces. So both of these signs, are bubbly. They want to be optimistic, and they don't mind seeing everything as, seeing everyone's potential, and, seeing the best in everyone, and seeing the best in everything. Both are kind of fantastical signs, I guess is my point. So again, that may help or hurt this relationship. Is having that in common good or bad? On the one hand, yeah, they can relate, but at the same time, if both are kind of having their head in the clouds, how is that going to work for a romantic relationship? Again, that's where I would really prefer to pair Pisces with a more grounded sign, like an earth sign or even another water sign. But Pisces and Libra, you're mixing water and air. So Pisces is kind of very focused on their own emotions, and Libra is very focused on their thoughts. So both Pisces and Libra can be ungrounded, just in different ways. Does that make sense? So both can also be escapists. Neither one likes conflict, or, because of that Venus influence, you can see how both really shy away from any kind of confrontation, which, again, that could be good or bad. That can be good in the sense that both of these signs value that harmony and peace. Neither one likes drama. That can be great for a very peaceful relationship. But on the other hand, sometimes there's a need for a certain level of confrontation in a relationship, and if both signs are completely avoiding anything that remotely feels like a confrontation, well, you're going to have baggage building up and things that you haven't processed or dealt with each other, and that will lead to the end of a relationship if you don't deal with that. So so when you put it all together, I would either say average or awkward. I would say awkward, I think. They definitely have way more different than they do in common. But I think even the commonalities don't necessarily help this combination, at least not romantically. I think these signs could be great friends. I think they could have very interesting conversations, deep conversations, even shallow conversations as well. Both enjoy that range intellectually. Both can be interested in fashion, maybe. I don't know. Like, I could see these signs being great friends, but romantically I feel like that would be dysfunctional, or in other words, it would require mutual understanding and compromise, like I always say. Next is Pisces with another Pisces. So this is going to be, I feel like it'd be a very deep connection. What I would be scared of, though, is, again, I'm not picking on Pisces, but they're one of the least grounded signs. They're, and that comes as a strength as well. It's not completely a deficit. Like, yeah, it's great that Pisces, sees themselves in everything, and they can connect with anyone or anything. They can see the truth in everything. They have the lack of boundaries, which is, again, it's a huge challenge, but it's also a huge strength as well. But now we're combining that whole theme in two people who have major Pisces placements. Like, who is going to be the responsible one? I'm not saying Pisces can't be responsible. I'm just saying generally Pisces struggles with, like, escapist tendencies, So I think this dynamic could be very ungrounded. I think they could be really great travelers together, adventurers. Both are going to have a lot in common, obviously. Both may be very passionate, emotional, musical. I could see them being like a great musical duo, maybe, or some other kind of like artistic or creative outlet. I think that would be really cool. I think they would enjoy that with one another. What else could I say? Pisces and Pisces. But yeah, again, I don't know. I think Pisces is looking for someone a little more grounded. Like, Pisces is the fish. They're very slippery. They'll slip right out of your hands. And so if you're putting multiple fish together, I don't know. They're both it's all just slippery. It's kind of like a slippery mess almost. Like, it could be really beautiful. But no one's like holding in, there's no container, there's no structure. So, but I mean, I could go back and forth for days. Like, I will say though, again, having two signs that are so emotional, so sensitive, and they're so intuitive, they'll be able to really read each other and understand each other on a deep level, because Pisces can do that with other people. So having two people that have that same kind of superpower, I think that could lead to a very deep connection. I'm going to put this in the good category. Whenever you have two signs that are involved with each other, they're going to have the same strengths and the same weaknesses, right? So when one is having a bad day, they're both having a bad day. There's no kind of complementary balance. They're not bringing different things to the table. They're both just very similar. So again, with more similar energies, I think they're more likely to be friends. Ideally, I would like to see some other element, something else going on for a romantic connection in particular. For friends, it's fine. You can just have really similar energies and be best friends and be twins or whatever. But romantically, we're usually looking for someone who has a little bit more difference, contrasted from how we are. Okay, next is Pisces and Sagittarius. So this is interesting because, again, we have a square aspect, 90 degrees. So they have the same modality. Both are mutable, but they have different elements. Pisces is... I just realized this video is going to be really long for some reason. Pisces is mutable water. Sagittarius is mutable fire. So there's a lot going for this combination, and there's a lot going against it as well. Like I say, with square aspects, they have that connection, they have that conversation, they see each other. Are they going to agree all the time, though? Absolutely not. um, Both are ruled by Jupiter, which is interesting as well. Jupiter has to do with the expansion of the heart, mind, and soul. I just came up with that. I mean, you could say Jupiter has to do with luck as well, but it's the expansion of the heart, mind, and soul. So both Sagittarius and Pisces do that, but they do so in very different ways. Sagittarius is the yang expression of Jupiter. So Sagittarius has more to do with like physically traveling, physically trying new things. Sagittarius can be involved with knowledge as well and being very intellectual, but it's usually more physical or like real world oriented in nature. Pisces is more about expanding the heart, mind, and soul emotionally or intuitively in your dreams. It's all very non-physical in nature. So anyway, so having these two people, two placements side by side, I think they may enjoy just how both are such open energies. With Pisces and Sagittarius, it's like the saying, it's about the road, not the destination. It's about the travel, the journey, not the destination. I think that saying is very applicable with both Sagittarius and Pisces. So I think both may be very fascinated in each other, having that shared theme, but then different ways of going about it. I think that could be very interesting for the two of these. I think they could have really deep and interesting conversations. I think they could have really interesting like adventures. They might enjoy trying new things together, which I guess now I'm hearing myself say that over and over. Putting Pisces next to any adventurous sign is going to be a huge adventure, I feel like. So that definitely applies to Sagittarius. What else could I say? With Sagittarius, you do have those themes that I mentioned with the other fire signs of, this could be very steamy, but is it, it may be difficult to maintain this dynamic. Sagittarius can burn Pisces up. They could be a bit offensive. That could rub Pisces the wrong way. And also Pisces sensitivity and emotionality, that could feel like at worst case scenario, that could feel like a burden to Sagittarius. So it kind of just depends. There's definitely going to need to be some compromise, mutual understanding, as I always say, because of their differences. But I think this could be a really interesting connection as well. Both being ruled by Jupiter, both are very warm and generous, I would say, generally speaking. And both are deep feelers as well. Both are deep feelers, but I do think they could be kind of intellectual as well. Like they like deep conversations and things like that. So I really like this combination. I'm gonna say it's good because I'm tempted to put it on. I feel like technically it should be average, but I just feel like I feel so warm even just thinking about Pisces and Sagittarius. You know what I would compare it to is like when you have some whiskey or other hard alcohol, you just feel that warmth inside. I feel like that's how Pisces and Sagittarius feel. So anyway, do with that what you will. Next is Scorpio and Pisces. Oh, this is a no-brainer. Again, we've got a trine aspect reminiscent of what I said about Cancer and Pisces. Yeah, I mean, putting two water signs together, it's a no-brainer. Both are deep feelers. Pisces and Scorpio in particular are really focused on like mysteries. They want to get to the bottom of things and have that deep understanding. Like both Pisces and Scorpio have that, penetrating kind of intuition and deep understanding. I think I just said that. So yeah, both Pisces and Scorpio can be very mysterious signs, deep signs. They could both be complex, but they'll understand each other's complexities. They'll be very receptive to each other's emotional complexity. What else? I think even the differences here actually support this combination. Scorpio being fixed water, they are a little bit more stable than Pisces is, which I think will be really refreshing, could help Pisces feel secure. And Pisces is more warm than Scorpio is. Pisces wears the heart on their sleeves, whereas Scorpio is very guarded with their emotions. So I think Scorpio will feel at ease around Pisces, like seeing Pisces be so emotionally vulnerable and things like that. I think that will help to warm up Scorpio a little bit and let them know that they don't have to be on their guard, that they're safe with Pisces, generally speaking. Obviously use your own discernment, but generally speaking, I think Scorpio is usually looking for a more stable sign. However, I think ultimately Scorpio just wants security, and I think they can find that with Pisces because of their commonalities. Because they'll have that deep connection, deep understanding. Both are deeply emotional, passionate, sensitive, etc. So I think that's where Scorpio could find that loyalty and that security with Pisces. On the other hand, not all Pisces are going to be ready for that level of loyalty and commitment that Scorpio generally wants. So I could see issues coming up there where maybe Pisces isn't ready to settle down for a relationship. That could make Scorpio feel very insecure and out of control. But again, on the other hand, I could see a very deep connection there as well, deep partnership. These signs are going to want to be very lovey-dovey. I know Scorpio doesn't seem like they would want that at the face of it, but that's because they're just guarded with their emotions. Deep down, they want that like touchy-feely connection that Pisces is more than capable of creating with them. So yeah, very beautiful. Okay, finally we've got these other earth signs. I feel like I've been waiting for these because these are, in my opinion, these are kind of what Pisces needs on some level. Taurus in particular, I think Taurus, I'm tempted to say it would be my number one pick for Pisces, but I have to think about it. What would be my top pick? Definitely these three, Cancer, Scorpio, and Taurus, I think would be the most beautiful matches for Pisces. Pisces and Taurus is just beautiful because it's a sextile, it's a harmonious aspect, Venus energy. Venus rules Taurus and Jupiter rules Pisces. Both are benefics, both are, in other words, both of these signs are focused on pleasure and pleasurable experiences and being very sensual. Both are very receptive. Taurus is much more grounded though, and I think that's really what I've been looking for Pisces. And you have to take this with a grain of salt. Like, I'm of course coming at this from my own bias. Like, as an astrologer, I'm looking for a match that's going to be complementary, where they can balance each other, learn from each other. You may or may not necessarily want that for yourself. Maybe you just want someone that's really similar to you. It's a no-brainer. It's really easy, and it's just an easy friendship. That may be more attractive to you depending on where you're at in life. Pisces and Taurus, though, they're going to be more complementary. Taurus is so structured. They're probably the most consistent sign of any of the 12 signs. And I think Pisces will really enjoy that, and will feel secure with them. But Taurus is going to like how kind of out of the box Pisces is. I think Taurus can be very vanilla, and they probably like that about themselves. But at the same time, I think Taurus is open to someone who's a little bit more wild than they are, or maybe a little bit more of a dreamer, more idealistic. And that's what they would find with Pisces. So yeah, I think it's a beautiful mix. Pisces is so nurturing. Taurus really soaks that up. Water nourishes the earth, and like I said, Taurus provides structure for Pisces, for the water. So yeah, I think it doesn't get much better than that. They have enough in common to be receptive to one another and understand each other, but they have enough differences to kind of balance each other, I would say. Next is Virgo. So this one is a little bit more difficult. I think on paper you would think Pisces and Virgo would work well together, but I think of the 6 opposite pairings, I think Pisces and Virgo is the most difficult. Because this is an opposition. Oppositions can be very tense. They can also be very sexual as well, because it's a face-off. You're looking straight across from each other. That's intense. It's like you're ready to fight, kind of, or something else. You know what I mean? Like, you're ready to plunge at each other, to face off. I'm making the weirdest gestures right now. But anyway, I was doing like karate chops, kind of. I don't know what that was. Anyway, Pisces and Virgo, okay, they do have a lot in common, but I don't think those commonalities necessarily make for an easy match romantically. What I mean by that is, Virgo is the end of the first half of the zodiac, and Pisces is the end of the last half, or in other words, Pisces is the end of the entire zodiac. So both Pisces and Virgo have to do with processing, like integrating, right? Both can be very internal because of that. Pisces can also be very open, but both are about kind of processing their experiences. So both Pisces and Virgo can be very focused on like ruminating and, processing, thinking, thinking, having deep feelings as well. But because these are both yin signs, they're doing all this internal work, and they're doing so in their own way. So I think generally the more outgoing opposite signs are more receptive to each other, and the more introverted opposite signs like Pisces and Virgo, it may be more difficult to branch, across that gap. As I mentioned earlier, Pisces is very sensitive, very emotional, very intuitive. So they're usually using those more emotional senses to connect with other people. And Virgo is a deep feeler, but they're not comfortable displaying that emotion. They tend to be very in control of their emotions, and they keep it inside. So Pisces, Virgo may be a little bit too dry for Pisces, where Pisces can't really gauge what they're feeling, and that could feel awkward or uncomfortable for Pisces. And Virgo's the other way around. Virgo likes to keep things like very professional, and they tend to take a little bit more time to warm up. Like I said, they can come across a little bit cold or dry at first. That will rub Pisces the wrong way. Pisces is more wet, I guess you could say. They're very warm, kind of gushy. A different way to put it would be, I think Pisces is probably the most comfortable being emotionally vulnerable, and Virgo is one of the least. It's one of the signs least comfortable with being emotionally vulnerable. So it's going to be difficult to bridge that gap. Virgo would provide structure for Pisces, but it's just in such a different way. Virgo's very particular, right? They're known for being neurotic. They need everything a certain way. That's going to drive Pisces absolutely crazy, because Pisces isn't like that at all. Pisces is just, let the chips fall where they may. There's meaning in everything. Any way that something happens, we can find meaning in it and find the purpose. Virgo isn't like that. Virgo is much more controlling. Like, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. So both are going to drive each other crazy. Pisces is going to feel like Virgo is negative and nitpicking, and Virgo is going to feel like Pisces is out of control and like they've just really let themselves go. Does that make sense? Like, neither one is wrong. It's just completely different, modalities. It's different outlooks on life. I do think this could be a beautiful connection, but it's either going to take a lot of mutual understanding and compromise, or there's got to be some other common ground. Like, if it's a Sun Pisces with a Sun Virgo, maybe they have the same moon sign. Maybe they both have Taurus moon. Like, okay, then it's going to be easy. I think then they could bridge that gap and understand each other and use each other's different strengths. It could be complementary. But generally speaking, just comparing Pisces to Virgo, I think that dynamic tends to be awkward. I think these signs don't understand each other. I think they can even vilify each other because they just don't understand each other. Like, both may be kind of distrusting of the other one. And really, it's not that either one of these signs is, lying or anything like that. It's just that they have different ways of doing pretty much everything. Virgo's so analytical. Pisces is so intuitive. So I would say this was one of the worst combinations, and no hate to my Pisces friends out there. But romantically, I think this is one of the more difficult. Like I said, out of all the 6 different oppositions, Pisces and Virgo is the hardest, in my opinion. Any of the others would work better. The second hardest would be Capricorn and Cancer. Again, in my opinion, that can be really beautiful, but it takes a very mature Cancer with a very mature Capricorn. Okay, but that's what I would say for the compatibility for Pisces. So again, my top picks would be Cancer, Scorpio, and Taurus. Either pairing with another water sign or Taurus. Even Capricorn could be beautiful, but also difficult. Or the good tier is all mutable signs. So pairing Pisces with another mutable sign, that could work too, other than Virgo. It's these, I don't know, there's something in common with these signs at the bottom. All these signs at the bottom, I think, can be very detached and like not very emotionally aware or emotionally sensitive, right? I think all of these signs can be a little bit more offensive. Libra is very emotionally sensitive, but do you see what I'm saying though? Like, I feel like all these signs are more dry. I don't know. So anyway, those are my thoughts about Pisces compatibility. I hope that was interesting or informative or fun for you. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree. let me know what sign we should do next. I don't really have a preference. I have a list. We've got Aries, Gemini, Cancer, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius left. So let me know what you want me to cover. Okay, thanks so much for hanging out with me for this almost hour, and have a great day.